Product Dossier welcomes all the attendees. We are going to start in few minutes from now. In the meantime, please enjoy our video and stand by. Product Dossier was started in 2006 by a group of extremely passionate professionals from global corporate background. The four co-founders realized very early that businesses across the world were transforming towards the projectized way. Powered by this foresight, the founders envisioned that companies needed software solutions that were holistic and not restricted to traditional dimensions of scope, schedule, and cost. Product Dossier is an enterprise software product company. We work with project-based industries to digitize and automate their business processes using our low-code, no-code technology platform Product Dossier PSA. We create value for our customer by improving project margins, improving top line by eliminating revenue leakages and minimizing revenue loss, improving resource utilization, person-wise profitability and employee engagement, reducing DSO by 15 to 30 days, improving cash flows and free cash, overall CSAT score, compliance, and governance, single version of truth, and lot more. Our purpose: to build project management culture for the project-based organizations, which results in sustainable value creation and helps in accomplishing overall business excellence for the customer.
Our customers are delivering projects and products which are fairly complex, and the entire process from start to end involves different departments, processes, sub-processes, compliances, governance, and so on. And the challenge becomes even bigger as this process is touched by almost every employee of the company. Our customers are expecting a technology platform to digitize and automate this project life cycle and make it easier for their users. This is a very well-spoken need. However, there is another unspoken need. Companies today are struggling to educate or train their users to execute the projects within the predefined financial, delivery, or governance matrix. They want their teams to use the existing data from their earlier projects. They want their teams to collaborate across projects. On the other side, the delivery teams want to get empowered. They want access to all data to be able to make decisions at the right time, and so on. We are articulating this need and gap for our customers and using our technology platform to build certain norms, values, and behavior at the customer place. This is all part of the project management culture building at the customer place. This is where exponential value gets generated for the customer.
Product Dossier PSA is an industry-focused professional services automation software with comprehensive capabilities like project financials, resource management, project planning, execution, and delivery management. Additional capabilities include opportunity and proposal management, partner and procurement management, customer billing, industry-specific capabilities, and others. Product Dossier PSA helps organizations achieve single version of truth. Product Dossier PSA can be integrated CRMs, ERP and accounting software, HR software, and other product.
That's where we thought we need to bring and cultivate our value system in pairs. And it is the combination that brings the best of each individual value. We are a team of ordinary people with big dreams and are on a mission to bring exponential results and extraordinary outcomes for our customers and for our people. Our best is just on the way.
Please reach out to us at Product Dossier.
Hi everyone, welcome to this Fireside chat, and thank you for taking out time to be with us this evening in India. Today in this Fireside chat we have global participants, and I'm really excited about doing this show with Shashank. I'm Sandeep Kumar, founder and CEO of Product Dossier. We are basically an enterprise class software product company. We help project-based industries to digitize and automate their business processes using our low-code, no-code technology platform, Product Dossier PSA. Today, if you look at it, the IT software industry worldwide is more than $1 trillion, and it is growing at almost 8% yearly growth. And the IT industry in India, as per NASSCOM, last year was $227 billion. So considering these numbers and in this context, our today's fireside chat, building digital culture for better project margins, is very relevant for every IT software company and every professional associated with it. I just can't wait any longer to hear what our guest speaker, Shashank Patkar, has to talk about it today. So it's my pleasure to introduce Shashank Patkar. He is an industry veteran of about 35 years. He has led different leadership roles, and he's currently the founder and CEO of Valuepreneur, a boutique IT consulting firm. And he has been a very hands-on person throughout his life, so we can expect some really deep insights and very practical side of things. So I am introducing Shashank Patkar. Shashank, welcome to this fireside chat.
Thank you.
And our audience, our participants, I myself are very excited about what you have to say. So before we begin, and just for the interest of our audience, can you talk a little bit about yourself, your professional journey?
Okay, thank you, Sandeep. And it's good to talk to all of you. It's interesting time right now, right? IT industry is really growing leaps and bounds. At the same time, margins are under pressure. And this is right time to discuss this topic. What are the different margin levers and so on? So before we jump into that, little bit about myself. I have over 35 years of experience in IT services and consulting. I work for Geometric. I led and headed many cross-functional responsibilities, right from head of sales to finance to delivery and transformation. During my role as Chief Transformation Officer at Geometric, I had the opportunity to work with the world's some of the finest consulting firms such as IBM Global and McKinsey and Company. I was also CEO of joint venture between Geometric and Dassault Systems from France. So let us get into the margin discussion, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Shashank. So before we go further, I have a couple of announcements to make for our participants. This particular fireside chat, we'll be having a 45 minutes where I and Shashank would be conversing and discussing. And then we have a 15 minutes of Q&A at the end of it. So if you want to ask any questions during that Q&A, you can basically raise your hand and our support team will make you the panelist. And after that, when you are doing that, for a moment, you will feel, and this is a Zoom process, that you are exiting, but you will be automatically come in. So don't worry about it. In case you want to write your questions in the chat window, that is also fine. And our team will take those questions. So thank you. And so Shashank, just starting off, all IT services company, for them, the organizational profitability is a key metric and they have very sharp focus on it. I always see all CEOs talking about this. So and you have seen industry right from the industry startup days to its current state of maturity. So what do you think are the factors impacting this organizational profitability?
Yes, so if you really see the organizational profitability, the levers are many. Okay, for example, to begin with, is pricing, right? Mm-hmm. Higher the price, higher the margin. Mm-hmm. Okay, then onshore, offshore ratio. Mm-hmm. More offshore, you have better margins. Okay, then type of projects where we have right from resourcing to time and material to fixed price and your products and licenses, where the margins are much lesser in resourcing. When you have control over time and material projects, margins are better. Mm-hmm. When you execute fixed price projects correctly, the margins are much higher. And of course, if you are able to sell your products in multiple copies, then your margins are very high. The other areas of margins levers are in project profitability. New margin levers which get tracked is automation, which more the automation or utilization of your own assets while delivering services, your margins are much higher. So there are a variety of levers, okay, which affect the profitability of the organization and which get keenly tracked on day-to-day basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you are saying it right. And one of another factor which comes to my mind is the overheads, right? And especially we have seen in the pandemic region, the travel became so less and the companies were suddenly more profitable.
Yes.
So of all these factors, I heard that you talked about the project margins or the project profitability. And I am particularly, when you said it, I was very curious. How important is this particular factor in the entire scheme of things for the organizational profitability? Yes. This project margins.
So before I answer your question, let me quickly talk about, you mentioned about travel, right? And now that travel has started and employees want to visit their customers, attend conferences, all IT companies margins will be under pressure because of the increased travel.
Yes, that's okay. Right.
So coming back to various levers, see what is happening, no? If you take offshore leverage or pricing or exchange rates or overhead allocation or even to some extent of automation or reuse of assets, okay, these levers are very rigorously tracked, are well understood. Most of the IT systems give dashboards, and CEOs and the top management, the CXO, are on top of it. Unfortunately, the lever, which is project management margin, very often gets neglected.
It's interesting that you are saying that every other lever is very well understood, tracked, and project margin is neglected. So what do you think are the reasons behind it? Why it is neglected?
Few reasons. Number one is the complexity of the levers. Okay, and some levers are not easily quantifiable, and we will talk about it. The other is digitalization of project management processes. So unless you have a digitalization, you don't get data. If you don't get data, then you are unable to track it and analyze it and make some inferences out of it. And another most important lever is culture. So many organizations don't have that culture to focus on project management margins. They focus on project deliveries, but they don't focus on understanding what are the margin levers during this process, which affects in turn company profitability.
So you are saying basically, first of all, the levers affecting this project margin are not very well understood, so we'll talk a little bit more about it. Second, you bringing in an important point, that digitalization or lack of digitalization, that's what you mean. And the third one, which is again very interesting for our today's fireside chat, is the culture building. And that is again lack of culture building. So I want to talk all these 3 points in some detail, but I want to start right now with so what are these levers we are talking about which affects project profitability? Is it not like if I want something project profitability to be more, I can do just something and then it will happen? What is your take on it?
So Sandeep, actually the project profitability actually is an outcome of many downstream activities. Okay, and we need to understand those downstream activities. Okay, so if you look at the entire project life cycle, okay, it starts from estimation, then you have a concept of resource planning, then you have delivery excellence, then you have invoicing, billing, knowledge capture, delivery governance, and so on. So when we are really talking about project life cycle, there are so many these steps involved. And then at each step, okay, there is a margin leakage, or you can say there is a scope to improve margin, whichever way you can look at it.
So interesting. So you are saying basically, if I want to attain project margins or better project margins, there are a lot of upstream processes which I have to take care, and then only I can arrive at a.
So basically, you have to look at entire project life cycle holistically.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that makes sense, because it's a result of many. So I would again want to go into each one of these levers. So what I heard you saying, you talked of like the estimation, which is really the first process in this entire life cycle. And then you talked of basically our project delivery, resource management, project financials, like you talked of billing and all those things. So just let's take one by one, and then deliberate as to what is that we can, what are the challenges covering that, and then we'll talk more. So why don't we just start with maybe the pricing or the estimation, really the first process in the entire life cycle?
Well, yeah. So as you said, this is like a starting point, right? When you get an opportunity, from opportunity to order process, the opportunity is given to delivery guys that, hey, now we have to quote, so estimate it. Now, while it's easy to say, the estimation is a very difficult process. So first of all, you have to understand what customer wants, what is the technology involved, whether you have understanding of that technology, what are the resources you require, whether you have resources in place, or if organization has ability to acquire these resources, what are investments required, what customer is looking at in terms of whether he is looking to develop it on time and material basis, fixed price basis, what the process he wants to do, because depending on the way customer wants delivery, actually your overheads change, right? Also depending on the entire complexity and duration of the project, there are a lot of other issues like do you want an nearshore setup, or do you want people to travel frequently, how the governance will be held, and so on. So you require a lot of knowledge about domain, your resource ability, your delivery governance ability, and so on. So all this knowledge has to get into estimation process. That is number one. Now, once, if the process is followed correctly, what you get is the quotation, which of course then sales guys go and negotiate, and you never get what you want, right? So end of the day, what you get is the negotiated price. And you can call it as sold profitability, or as sold margins, or as sold revenue you get. Now, that's where the fun starts. So if the estimation process is not followed correctly, as I said, various factors affecting it, I have seen many projects actually in as sold status, the margins are already inflated. Means those margins are not real.
Absolutely. No, I think you are right. And in my own experience, when I talk to the leadership, one of their challenges, like you said, not all the cost categories are actually basically factored in or subject. And invariably, I see a lot of indirect cost is kind of left out, which is reasonably significant, if not everything. And another thing, some of our customers and have pointed out that inflation cost. So, and especially for a multi-year project, right, when they are doing estimation,
correct.
So they take up the current cost master, and but these salaries are going to increase year after year, and that is not factored in, and that kind of eats away into margins.
Correct. And this all comes from experience and knowledge capture.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And this is, in fact, people are talking about, how can I learn from my previous the knowledge of the customer, right? What kind of customer it is, how much negotiation, and also a lot of things are there. So I take your point. It's a very important step, and you already outlined. Now, once we have the estimation in place, let's talk a little bit about the resourcing, which is, I think, is the another very, very important
Yes.
aspect of why our project margins go down. So let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, and in today's scenario where resources are in high demand,
Absolutely.
and many people are not joining after accepting offers and so on, and high level of attrition, see, resource planning becomes very, very important.
Mhm.
Okay, so if really you understand the resource has three attributes. Okay, A, on time availability of resource.
Mhm.
Two, the competency of the resource.
Mhm.
And three, cost of resource. Now let's take one by one and let's see how it affects the project profitability or project margins, whatever you can call it. So basically, you make some commitment to customers, whether it is a time and material project or fixed price project, based on your estimate and the forecast of resources.
Mhm.
So resource planning is very important. When you are starting the project, if resources are not in place,
Mhm.
that is on time availability of resource,
Mhm.
already your margins are getting affected. So even in terms of, say, time and material, one can say that, hey, in first month, if I put lesser resources, I will do lesser billing, but I will catch up by putting extra resources. But then customer may not be okay with that, or there is a schedule variance because of that and so on. In fixed price project also, it gets affected. So if proper resource planning is not followed, and that itself is a complex subject by itself,
Absolutely.
the resource planning, because it has to do planning of bench management, hiring, attrition, and release from your internal projects or other projects. So that's a complex module by itself, or concept subject by itself.
Correct.
So if you don't do proper resource planning, okay, then you don't have on-time resources. Second aspect is competency of the resources. So when you are doing estimation of the project, you have assumed that your pyramid or the team structure has, say, one lead, two tech experts, three principal designers and software engineers, testers, and so on. Now, if the balance is not met, and if you don't get resources as you have planned, again, there is a problem. Now, what happens then, really speaking, is you either put more low competency resources. Correct. Just to cover up, right? And correct. IT services, it's not like, right, instead of 2 good, you put 4 average, you will give the same quality. So then what happens is, really the project's deliveries get extended, people are overworking, and then morale is affected. Let us look at sometime what organizations do, because just to make sure that deliveries are made, they put very high competent resources on low tech job. Again, their morale is affected. Okay, and the third part, as I said, is the cost of the resources. In many a times, you plan a project with certain costs of resource cost of team sizes, and the actual which teams gets constituted, okay, because of whatever reasons, your availability or customer pressure and so on, you invariably put a high cost resource to do what you are getting, and then your margins get affected. So this whole resource planning, and it was always a complex subject and challenging subject, but in today's scenario, even it is more important to do proper resource planning before you commit to undertake the project.
Yeah, I think you are right, basically, and all this affects project profitability. Another thing which I have seen in the organization is the silos, right? So in one place there are extra resources, another place there is a resource requirement, but that visibility is not there. and that flexibility of moving
and
resources.
hoarding of resources, right?
Yeah, holding shadow resources.
many,
I'm not even going there.
so many project managers, they don't want to release the projects.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
and there are many good resources working under radar, and then it affects. So if you don't have the visibility of resources in the company, okay, then that itself affects your ability to undertake more projects, and in turn ability to make more profit.
And like you said, the every project manager knows which are the best resources, and they always want to take that. But that also means the cost of the project is going up, because those are probably expensive. So I think this there is no linking of the project budget with the resources you are using. That is also a sort of a challenge which is there.
Yes.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. I think resource management is always the king of problems in the organization. So how about the governance part, the delivery, and how does how this is an issue, and what do you see about it?
So this is where, and we will talk more in detail about it. It's the culture, and the other thing, is many times I have found in the organization, IT services, professional services, whatever you call it, there is not much importance is given into governance.
Absolutely.
Now, delivery governance, actually there are 2-3 different aspects. A is governance. That means the proper communication, transparency, single truth, single version of data which is flowing between the team members and the manager and the customer. So if you see, there is a governance between the teams or within the team. There is a governance between delivery manager and company management, and there should be governance between company and customer.
Absolutely.
So there are 3 levels of delivery governance which always should happen.
Correct.
And there are best practices towards that. And if you don't follow these best practices, there is a leakage. Now, let me tell you what happens if there is no proper governances. In one line answer, you are headed for unpleasant surprises at the end of the project.
Absolutely.
So if there is a proper governance, you capture if there are any delays, or if there are any resource issues, or if there is any quality issues, or if there is any schedule or effort variances, much ahead of time in the life cycle of the project. You don't have last minute surprises.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if again there are proper governance between manager and company management, the manager then can alert company management that, hey, I require more investments, or I require more resources, or in terms of tools, or in terms of travel, or in terms of people, or whatever it is, but more resources to make up.
Correct.
Also, the governance, delivery governance between the customer and the vendor is also important. So there, what happens, if there are any issues, okay, you can alert customer much in advance. Okay, rather than sitting on the problem. Through proper governances, you talk to your customer and tell him about your problem. And see, I have seen many a times, okay, when it's a win-win situation if you talk about it problems much ahead of time.
Absolutely.
So customer also understand. Of course, if you goof up in a big way, yeah, he will not. But otherwise, he will understand, he will participate in solving the same, and so on. So delivery governance is very important. Of course, there are best practices, methodologies for delivery governances, how it is captured, how the minutes are, then how it's communicated, and so on. And of course, you require digitization for it.
Correct.
So delivery governance, yes, it is very important.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, what I have observed is that this is more like a reactive thing. I mean, you try to fix the problems when they have happened, but that proactive frameworks, proactive governance, I mean, unless everything is running fine, nobody wants to, and then you end up doing firefighting and all. So yeah, absolutely, I completely agree with you. So Shashank, now let's talk a little bit about, you talked of billing, and there are other things like revenue recognition and all those things. So what is the state of, I mean, this financial governance, if I can call it, parallel to delivery governance? So what are the things ailing companies?
See, there are two parts to it. What I have seen, okay, is first of all, unfortunately, in many companies I have seen that project managers are involved, are exposed to financials, project financials. That itself, I feel, is a big mistake. But when they are not exposed to the project financials, they don't know what's going on. They don't know whether the project is on track or it is leaking margin and so on. Another thing is, even if they are, and many companies they do also, okay, and where project managers, but if there is no proper systems in place, and as we said, the reviews, the digitalization of things, then what happens is there are a lot of leakages. Now, let me give you some example. The IT services is finally what we bill is our time, right? That's the everything. So time clocking is extremely important. Time reconciliation is extremely important. Making sure that you don't miss billing the time is extremely important. Sometimes I have seen the PO is for $100,000 and entire billing happens of $95,000 and the project is closed. So there is actually a money lying on the PO. It's a leakage because nobody is really tracking or reconciling the time. Again, in IT services, most of the time, or always, I will say, other than fixed price project, there is approval of time from the customer. Now, then, if there are no proper tool and proper processes are followed, okay, then there is a time delays between actually the time is clocked or end of the month and actually the invoice is raised. Because there is a process, right? You reconcile, send it to customer approves, and then you raise the bill. Again, this is costing company a lot. It's a working capital which is affected, right? Because your delay you bill, delay you get paid.
Absolutely. Your DSO, final DSO, very late.
Yeah, and see what is happening now typically in Indian IT industry, because it's a cash generating business. This is taken very lightly. But as our topic today is when the entire industry is under margin pressure, we have to look at each and every lever where margin can be improved. Absolutely. And this understanding of project financials and understanding by project managers that how he can contribute in improving margins by implementing different best practices is very, very important. Of course, before that, he should know what's going on. And then he should having empowerment to do this.
Absolutely. No, I think these are very good. Like you talked about timesheets and all. So in many companies, I have seen like they say we don't have a culture like that. But ultimately, that's the currency. So it's very important for services company to have timesheets and the other governance you talked about. Another thing which I have noticed, and I think it is a big issue and which finally leads to huge DSOs, is the revenue at risk. So the project managers are very technical people, right? Correct. They have a very good friendship with the customer, so they keep on working. But nobody realizes that the PO is not available. So if the PO is not available, first thing, you can never do billing.
Correct.
So this basic governance, and sometimes the project people, they continue to work for 3-4 months, and in the end, when you come to know, it's a big issue, right?
No, and Sandeep, you said it's a big problem in the industry.
Correct.
Different people call it different thing, pre-contract work,
correct,
revenue at risk, or whatever you say, but yes. So, and see, industry, everybody wants to grow, right? So they want to start the work without PO.
Absolutely.
Okay, and while I would say, see, I have played a role of both CFO as well as head of sales and head of delivery, right? Correct. And I know that sometimes you have to start, or most of the time you have to start the work. But then there has to be, and this is where reviews and governance come in play. If you are continuously reviewing it and there is a governance process and talking to customer, what we have to really shorten is getting the delay between you start the project and actually when you get the PO.
Correct. That's great. So let's quickly talk a little bit about the change management piece, because I think that is also, you spoke earlier, and it's quite important from a So where do you think, I mean, what's with the change management thing? What is the state?
Well, whatever you call change management, scope creep, it is a big factor affecting margins. Okay, see, there are two parts. Culturally, no, I have seen this many a times in India. Okay, culturally, we don't want to talk to customer about changes in scope, change in features or extra work. I don't know, we feel little odd or we feel shy. How can we go and talk to customer? So first of all, we should be upfront. There needs to be a process of change management, and this again comes to profit culture, right? If everybody is aware that we have to make a profit, okay, we are not there for charity, right? And customer is also not asking. Let me tell you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but it's we or it's us, we don't go and ask that this is a change and you need to pay for it. Okay. Now, change management affects two ways. First is the documentation of it. So today everything is on email, everything is verbal on phone. We nod, we accept, and we don't document, we don't convert it into a legal document, and so on. The other change management is the quantification of it. Again, we are relaxed in terms of asking customer to sign and pay for it. And it affects, finally, the projects get delayed, it affects the morale of the team, and it affects the profitability of the company. So very important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are right that there is absolutely no documentation, and the project manager doesn't know whether it's a paid change, unpaid change. And I have also noticed that, you know, change, whenever there is a change, you need to get a new PO. So that process of project manager communicating to the sales team and then getting a PO, that itself, that process is fully broken, and it takes a lot of time. Sometimes you don't get, and the project is already finished. So
and you forget.
Yeah,
you forget to bill.
Absolutely.
And actually, customer has budgeted it. Customer wants you to invoice and get paid. But it's your processes, then there is a leakage happens.
Sure. So you did also talk about risk management and all. There could be other levers, but I think today we've got a good idea of what are these levers: estimation, the delivery governance, the resource management, the financials, and the change management. So, Shashank, this is a time for a poll for our audience. So we'll be conducting our first poll. You will see, and this poll is about challenges in the project margin. So I would request you to please take this poll. You can select one or all of them, and you will have 30 seconds. Okay, can we get the results, please? Okay, as I can see, the Excel based estimations is about 16%, project delivery is about 25%, resource allocation and forecasting 91%, right?
Yeah.
And then revenue recognition is also very high, and then we have on time and accurate billings, that is also in double digits. So you see the resource management is the
this is as per my expectation, particularly in today's scenario. Organizations are really facing a problem in terms of resource management. I know many companies are actually leaving business on the table. They are not taking projects just because they don't have adequate resources.
Absolutely.
Okay, and
I think this will also have a major share in eating into margins if you don't do it right.
No, and but that's the thing. You know, many people, while they are talking about resource management as a problem, people are not investing into proper tools in terms of resource planning, competency building, bench management, and so on.
Great. So Shashank, moving on, like you talked of levers, the digitalization, and the culture building. So let's talk a little bit about the culture. How important is to build the project management culture or the digital culture? What's your take on it? I mean, it sounds very interesting.
Yes.
When
and
you
this
talk of
topic
culture.
is very close to my heart.
Oh, okay.
See, end of the day, organization, I always say, but in whichever organization, but particularly in IT services organization, we need to build a culture of learning, accountability and empowerment, profit, that people should be profit oriented and not doing the charity oriented. So it is very important. I will say that we have to build a culture. Organizations should have a learning culture. They should be accountability and empowerment, and they should be profit oriented. So we need to expose our project managers, team members, leadership team, that this is where organizations are built upon. There has to be a transparency of the data. See, it's not easy, right? It's actually, it has to be in the DNA of the organization. It starts with transparency. It starts with allowing people to take decisions. It starts with project managers empowered in terms of getting financial data, taking financial decisions. Okay, if you give make project manager accountable for something, and then for each and everything, if they have to go to their bosses for approval, then while they are responsible, they don't have authority.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. Also, it comes from training, that they have to be trained in people. Otherwise, what happen? I have seen they become very technology oriented managers, and they are unable to grow. Their personal growth is affected. Okay. And other important thing I have seen is if the project managers are motivated, then the teams are motivated. It's a higher team bonding, and your attrition is lesser. So it's in the culture. I mean, I will tell you, learning organization, empowered organization, profit oriented organization is always a motivated organization.
Absolutely. No, you are right. And I have, like you said, it's important for you. It's very close to your heart. Culture is a very important thing where, first of all, I have seen the entire organization. I mean, this project financials information is available to few people in the organization. The project manager, who is for me actually the CEO of the project, right? He knows the most. They don't have access to financial data and all that, so that they can, for them it's like a playground, right? They can play around with the mix of resources, because then it becomes her goal to make the project more profitable. And another problem I have seen is, like in the absence of this thought process, people are just compiling data without even asking what are they going to do with it, right?
Yeah.
So the culture will actually help people to ask the right questions, and when they are asking, that means they are thinking, and then sustainable value gets created. Yes. So from that perspective, I think this culture building is extremely important.
And it also helps organization building bench strength of future leaders.
Correct.
Because if they don't expose, if they don't allow people to take decisions, if they don't allow people to make mistakes,
correct.
how people will learn? And that's why I said it's all together, like learning culture, empowerment, accountability, at the same time focus on profit.
Sure. So let's do a quick poll here. We have a second poll on culture. So can we have our second poll for today? Okay, request all of you to please take this poll. We have, this is a smaller one, but you can select one or all of them. And yeah. Can we have the results, please? So there is like we expected, only 50% people have access to the financial data, and then they have access to delivery data, but that too is only less than 70%. So I think these are some of the, what we spoke about. Organizations really need to improve.
Yes,
and
actually, you can say, you can see almost everything. One is 60% access.
Correct.
That's fine. That's their role. But if you see the
Other
next
two,
it
absolutely,
is 50% and less, and that's the problem.
Correct.
See, that's the problem organizations are facing.
Absolutely.
And they need to invest in that.
Invest in this.
Yeah.
So, Shashank, the third thing you talked of, the lack of digitalization, right, in the organization. So very quickly, I would like to hear, what do you think is the state of digitalization in the organization today? What are they doing? How much they have digitalized and all?
See, I will put it in two buckets, okay, or three buckets. Large companies, mid-size and small companies. So large companies, of course, there is a very high level of digitization. They have implemented ERP systems or enterprise systems, plus they have customized it a lot to suit their requirements. However, I will not say that the empowerment there is such a high level. Okay, but it's fine. They have built a brand, so that's how it's working for them. Mid and small companies, I would say, in terms of their enterprise digital backbone, most have implemented accounting and finance. Many of them, definitely almost all of them, CRM. Okay. And that's where the process starts. Most of them HR. Okay. But many lack today what I call, the PSA, is the project management, where you integrate resource management, project finance, the delivery governance, and linkages to other things. Sure. I see many have not yet implemented.
Correct. So this is also sort of my experience, like people have HR, CRM, and accounting, and then like the project management as the world understands it, like Jira or Microsoft Project. But a lot of their work, like we spoke about the life cycle, it is still done in Excels or some homegrown utilities. So that's the the challenge.
And the challenge is there is no single version of truth.
Absolutely.
Okay, everybody has their version of truth.
Yeah.
They have their own Excels. There is own data. So even if you, for example, I have seen many organizations, okay, you start talking about utilization. Each project manager, his boss,
and they have their own Excel.
They have their own Excel and they have their different data.
Absolutely.
Then you go to CFO. He will say that the project manager will see, I am at 90% utilization. CFO will say that, hey, you are only billing 70.
Yeah.
So there is no single version of truth.
Absolutely. No, you are bang on. I think so. I think it is still in a very infant stage, because these other things have matured, HR and CRM. So people have, and even in the CRM, like we spoke, it is only tracking of the opportunity. There is no estimation, is still done in Excels and all those things.
Yes.
So Shashank, moving on, while this is the state, what do you think is the, if you have some knowledge about it, is the vendor community, what kind of options are today available, or from a software vendor who are providing these technologies? You mentioned the PSA, the professional services, automation, and ERP. So talk to us a little bit about it based on your knowledge.
So in the market right now, as I see, and again, my experience is more from, because I'm interacting with IT services companies. So it's more from what they have implemented and little bit about what softwares they have implemented. So there are, of course, there are mainstream top of the line ERP software. So, and most ERP vendors, while they are very strong in accounting and vendor management, we call procure to pay role, and they have HR interfaces and so on. Some of them do have project finance module, resource management module, but very weak, because their focus particularly was accounting, finance, vendor management, so on. CRM is, I have always seen that it's a category by itself, and there are specialized solutions in terms of CRM. Lot of other things are either on Excel or Jira or some homegrown applications. They lack integration. Always a data flow is a problem, and single version of truth is a problem. But as I said, very large organization, they have customized everything. So they have solved that problem. Okay, and then they have put BI tools on the same. So I would not say they are facing any problem there, and they have solved the single version of truth problem. The problem, as I see, is a medium and small organization, and particularly very small organization. What happens? They actually start working in a startup mode. So many of them in the beginning, even if they are 50 people, 100 people, they are working from a small office, and they are very well connected. And a lot of these problems are actually solved by over communication and sitting in the same room. But that is not the way to go. And moment they become even 200 people, okay, actually they feel that they are making money, but there is actually a lot of leakage.
Correct. So yeah, absolutely. And I think like you said, there are ERP vendors, but traditionally, they were built for manufacturing, and they sort of force fitting it into the project based work, and they do have some. And another interesting thing I would like to bring here is, when I speak to customers or our prospects and all those things, today the challenge starts with the articulation of what the customer needs. That itself is a big problem, because these kind of things, there are too many stakeholders. So how do you identify it? And then they always have this sort of, customer has a fear that will we be able to articulate everything? What will happen to us 3 months later? Then do we have to keep investing and all those things? So I feel this PSA market, or professional services automation, it is kind of evolving, and today customers are looking more for strategic partner rather than just buying something off the shelf, because they also realize it is not going to work. They are looking for best of both worlds, sort of out of the box and yet tailor made for your needs. And they are definitely looking for somebody, some hand holding and strategic relationship, rather than transaction based approach. So
yes, I will use the word right size partner.
All right,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. I will tell you what is happening, particularly, and not to blame project management or project managers, this community of delivery managers. See, look at their daily job, right? They have to focus on delivering projects to customer. There is always a resource problem. There is always a change request problem. Okay, and then there is a pressure to deliver. Now, during this process, what happens is, obviously, they don't want additional overhead of following systems.
Correct.
Okay, and that's the problem. Now that system has to be intuitive, system has to be well integrated and easy to understand, and they need to get a support. Correct. And that's where the partner which can understand their problem, project manager's problem, work with them and help them implement in step-by-step manner will win, according to me. And that's where today the PSA as a whole segment is lacking, is because of actually this delivery managers or project managers called, they are under pressure.
Correct. Absolutely. No, I think that's a very important category which is evolving. And as I said, it is not today. It's not just about the software. It is about how you deploy it. What is your, so people are looking at that.
No, and I just want to add here, organization, when they want to deploy PSA software, which is very important for margin improvement. Okay, I mean, I feel it's must, and they should give equal weightage to accounting or HR and so on. But there is something called change management. So right. Organizations also have to focus on change management, take these project manager, delivery managers into confidence, and then implement.
Yeah, basically points back to our culture building thing we talked about. So, okay, so let's take a poll at this moment, our third poll, to see what is that, people have done. So can we have the third poll, please? Okay, so request all of you to please, this is our final poll. So if you take it, and then we'll have 30 seconds to do it, please. Okay, so that's done. Can we have the results, please? Okay, so we have CRM like we expected, about 36, HR equal, accounting a little bit more like we expected, project management, software, Jira. So, and then you see estimation is, like we said, it's a first upstream process, which is very less
lacking,
absolutely. And PSA, I'm 27%. So that's not bad. I mean, so that means
it's not
people,
bad, but that's definitely an area where IT companies need to invest. And I would say on the topic that when entire industry where the margins are under pressure, this is the area where they need to focus, and it's not going to happen overnight.
Correct.
Particularly many of these levers like competency building, then employee morale, learning organization, reviews. Okay, and it's like it's a circular process. Like you build something, your estimation improves. Your estimation improves, your morale is higher. Your the leakages are less. So it's a
absolutely. And this is, like I always keep telling our customers, the biggest benefit you will get is the organizational maturity level.
Correct.
Because when you solve one problem, then everybody starts thinking of the next level of problem, and that's how you build the organization and the culture. Interesting. So Shashank, we are running a little bit late, so let me ask you the final question, a final takeaway for our audience. If a organization wants to get into this digitalization and all, so do you have a sort of a blueprint or a roadmap for them? You were like a chief transformation officer of Geometric, so what would your advice to them, so that
first of all, they should be internally ready. They need to have a sponsor, and I would say for such an activity, a CEO should be involved in the organization. They need to have a proper process of change management. Okay, it's the thing. I would always say that they should at least start with documenting their whatever as is processes. Then they should do their search of the PSA tool. Right size partner is something what I would suggest them, and then go in step by step. Then suppose you are like a 2,000 people organization. Okay, start say with 500 people a group where you implement it, show it a success, so that there is more buy-in internally, and then deploy it for a period of time and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll echo your thought process. The only thing I would add to further, and which you mentioned, it's a journey.
Yes.
It's not an overnight success.
Correct.
You are never going to get there. In fact, today you don't even know what problems you have. But it's a journey. It will help you mature. It will help your people mature. And as an organization, you will be able to make a tremendous progress. And this is not just about you. Even your customers would start appreciating you a lot more.
Oh, yes.
Because they also want to work with discipline organizations and all those things. So absolutely, I think your step-by-step approach and look for a partner and long-term, these are some of the things I would also tell, if anybody wants to go for this PSA kind of journey.
Correct. And see, finally, all this what we are talking helps no unpleasant surprises at the end.
Absolutely.
And it helps win-win for customer. You build good relationship and you build a profitable organization.
Absolutely. So Shashank, on that note, it was really great to hear you. I mean, as I said, you are a very hands-on person in your career, and we can see those nitty-gritties coming in. And I'm sure this is a great session for our audience. And Shashank talked to us about right from the beginning, basically, what are the margin, what are the levers which are affecting project margins. He explained to us in detail, and then he talked about the culture part, how important is the or project management culture and how it impacts the project margins. We talked of digitalization, and then he also gave us a kind of a roadmap for the organizations when they want to get in onto this journey. So I think we kind of covered A to Z. And on that note, I would like to thank everybody for being patient, listening to us. And once again, thank you very much, Shashank. So we are now open for Q&A sessions, and any one of you who wants to ask any questions to Shashank, you can raise your hand. Our team will make you a panelist. You will feel for a moment you are going out, but you will be brought in automatically. And if you have put in some chat questions, let me see if our team has some questions for me. Okay. So there is a how do you the name of the person who asked is not there, but how do you manage billing in T&M projects which you don't know in future resources can leave the organization anytime? So the question is, if let me understand, how do you manage billing in T&M projects in which you don't know in future resources can leave the organization anytime? So I think she's talking about the revenue loss. So she's saying, how do I manage my T&M billing when a person who I have today may not be there tomorrow?
No, in T&M, actually billing is done if the time is clocked, right? So if the person leaves, the time is not clocked. Okay, so you should not bill. But at the same time, if your delivery quality is getting affected, and if you feel that even I should not be billing some of the current time, because then there is a what you call as a overlap period and learning period and so on. That's how many a times people handle it.
So thank you, Shashank, for that. We have a question from Abhijit Shrivastava. And what he is saying is why we need to expose project manager with financials. Why can't we just give them hours and efforts, and that can be within the 8 to 10% of the agreed hours? So he's asking, why do we need to give financial access to project managers?
Well, okay, I will go by my experience, and I have seen if you build empowered organization, according to me, project managers are in leadership role. They are managing the thing, and you are empowering them with some certain decision making. Definitely, the project profitability is one of the goal of project managers, and if project profitability is the goal of the project managers have to have a control. Now, when project managers have to have a control, okay, they need to have a data. Okay, for example, okay, project manager is allowed to choose resources the way he wants in terms of pyramid from the bench given thing. Then he should know the cost of the resources, right? Or if somebody needs to travel at a short notice, he needs to know the cost of the travel. So I would always, I have seen both the organization benefit, the employee, the PMs, project managers benefit, and the morale of the entire PM community is high when there is transparency in terms of data.
Absolutely. And it's not just the person hours which are making the entire cost. There are so many other costs. Correct. And like you said, it's like empowering. When you tell somebody, look, it's your job to make it profitable, then the person thinks very differently. And when you just say, look, you have 100 hours, you have to get it done, then person thinks very differently. So so I think Abhijit, it's Abhijit Shrivastava. So I think there is a huge difference. While you can do, and many organizations are today doing that, but eventually, imagine if you are made the CEO of the project, and then what results that person can bring to the project. So that's what I would say.
And plus you actually build empowered organization. I'm saying this and stressing this again and again, but you need to create a bench strength of empowered project managers if you want organization to grow.
Correct. So I think we are just on the top of the hour, but I have one or two questions. So Shashank, you spoke of timesheet, and now there is a Prasanna Kumar, and there is a question. There is a resistance to timesheet by employees. How do we bring adherence?
Okay. See, we are in software services organization, right? So I don't want to be rude, but that is non-negotiable, right? If anybody joining IT services company, they have to clock time. It's as simple as that. So fine, otherwise they can find the job somewhere else.
Okay, so I think we have a live participant and he wants to ask a question. Can we have him on the screen, please?
Hi, I'm not. Am I audible?
Audible. So
yeah. Thanks a lot.
It's
a very valuable session, Shashank and Sandeep. I must say, really glad that I joined this. I would say that while you were talking and discussing topics, we were actually imagining that this is what exactly is happening. Us as an IT services company and the same challenges. And I think the question which I wanted to ask was, just answered. It was more on the financial aspect, like if the project managers are given that authority to decide and, plan the budgets, what the impact would be like for an organization. We are a relatively small organization. We are close to about 300 people currently. So for a company like us, we as founders are always hesitant about sharing this information. And just add on to that question, right? If we give the right information to them to take decisions, is financial still the necessity, or it is giving them the right authority and the right information to be able to take decisions?
That is fine. I suggest you should. It's like this: give as much data as possible. Don't distinguish between financial and non-financial, and so on. If they are empowered or they are accountable for something, they should have the data. And I feel project managers should be accountable for project profitability. And earlier you involve them, they also get a sense of margins and they contribute at a higher level in the organization, and you build a good team and they are motivated. I have seen that more people you involve, more motivated they are.
Right. Probably that's
it's one of those things, right? I understand that you don't want to share everything, but you still want them to perform at that level. But my sense is in our own organization, when we share things, when we share some financial numbers with our people, they also become very mature. They do understand it's confidential and it's all trust that organization is sharing this information. So they only make use of that data for the purpose that is given. So I think it's one of those mindset, right? We earlier used to think we can't work from home. But now people are working from home. So we need to try this. It's only going to help us.
And I will just add from my geometric experience, right? Our project managers were very empowered, and in fact, they used to have actual salary data of all their reportees. Okay, and we always used to have that discussion whether to give average salary or actual salary and so on. And we used to say that anyway, people know everybody's salary. So don't break your head. Give people empowerment, and in fact, they learn how to handle that data. When sensitive data is given, they learn to handle that. They will make mistakes. So what? It's not end of the world.
In fact,
So
these days, it is always, we are happy to share that information because the salaries are multiple X, so it really doesn't make a difference. Anyways, thanks a lot for answering the question and taking time. Thank you very much.
yeah. Thanks, Vivek. Thanks for your time. Yeah. So there is, Shashank, another question from Abhijit Hardikar. And Abhijit is, his question is, first of all, he's complimenting you for such a nice session.
Thank
Then
you.
what he's saying is, how do you see the digital world changing its practices of estimation? How do you see the digital world changing its practices of estimation, especially firm fixed price projects managed using agile methodology? So he's asking basically how the digitalization will help estimations and how.
No, so there are two things you said: the fixed price projects and managed through agile methodology.
Correct.
Okay, so the fixed price, see, there are two things. Managing the project in agile methodologies after you win the project. So that is internal to you. First is getting the fixed price project. The moment you are talking about fixed price project, it's really, you have to be careful when you are estimating it. And that's where, the learning organization, see what you capture from your previous experiences in terms of the projects you have done, in the projects, the domain you have worked. I know Abhijit works for Quest, right?
Correct.
And
that is
Quest is really doing well in engineering services. And the knowledge you capture from the previous projects is very, very important, or mistakes you have made in executing fixed price projects. Or see, typically in fixed price projects, the key risks are key people leaving, or change management, or understanding of the technology, right? And your domain knowledge and so on. So if you manage it well, then in terms of estimation, lower risks are. I always again say that, typically never take any R&D projects as fixed price projects. Okay, it is sometimes very difficult to convince customers, but R&D projects best taken as small POC projects first, or at least a hybrid of fixed price and time and material. Okay, and that's so these are learnings, right? And I'm sure Quest, almost $1 billion company, you also have a lot of learnings.
And he's asking another follow-on question, Shashank. He wants, how do you work with customers who really want nitty-gritty details in the fixed price projects, like hours, how many hours you have spent? It's a fixed price project, but customer is on top of it. They are asking how many hours you have spent in it. It's a real problem. Sometimes
so very simple, right? Don't give. See, then it is not a fixed price project, right?
Correct.
Because by very nature of fixed price project, organizations are taking risk. So what is that risk? Is they are bidding. Means, I will tell you, in the industry today, at least as I know, at least pre-COVID, okay, and my estimate is close to 70-80% fixed price projects are running in losses.
70 to 80%.
Yes, because with the estimation, then the scope change, the scope creep, and so on. Finally the margins, the as sold margins and actual margins, there is a big difference.
It is supposed to be the other way around, actually.
It is supposed to be the other way. So it is very important that such a high risk organizations are taking. Absolutely, organization don't have to give 2 hours to customer. However, there is a proper communication process. The sales guys have to do a good job in terms of explaining that when we are taking a fixed price project, it's a risk also. We are associated risk we are taking, and we should talk about the schedules and deliveries.
Correct. Absolutely.
Than how much efforts we put. Yeah. For example, right? I have done a great job in asset capitalization, and I reuse those assets. That's my secret, right? Absolutely. Or why I should tell this to customer.
Absolutely. No, you are bang on, but customers.
No, but this is a problem faced by everybody, but it needs to be handled tactfully.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we have no other questions, or let me check one final time. Okay. Okay, so I think we don't have any further questions, but this was a great session with such participation from the audience. And Shashank, thank you once again for such a interesting and your insights. I really enjoyed it, and we look forward of doing some more sessions in the future.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandeep. And I also enjoyed a lot of good questions.
Correct.
And this was the right topic for right time, right? Where
Right,
the
absolutely.
industries and the margin pressure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll say goodbye, and we'll looking forward to seeing you in the next
good
session.
evening to all.
Thank you.
Yeah.